Frankie from Flatbush, reporting from Frankie from Flatbush headquarters on FSPN about the New York Jets. What else? We we had a week where we got some football things to talk about. Finally, because the New York Jets have reported to training camp. You might have seen the news. And so training camp has begun, so it's time to do a little bit of a news week in review. Let's catch up on all of the news items that are happening because starting now, we're going to get a bunch of news items, and so we need to kind of take a look at all the things that have happened in the in a short period of time and have some commentary about them. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little button down below. It is free. And if you also would like to click the like button, we would appreciate that very much. Like and subscribe, as the kids say. All right, with that being done, training camp has begun. Some of the news items, I have them on a list over here. That's why I'm looking this way. The poopy list. Oh, what's that? The poopy list. We got two people on the poopy list. That would be Jermaine Johnson and Irv Chucky. Irv Charles, good old Irv Charles. He's on the poopy list. This is the physically unable to perform list. And so Jermaine Johnson, not a big deal. It was expected. He agrees it's a slow, sort of like a play it safe strategy by the Jets. With Jermaine, he should be fine for the season. Irv Chucky, on the other hand, he's not going to be fine for the season. He'll be back probably November-ish. So, big special teams contributor. We call him the Wolf, Irv Chucky. And so he'll be back in November. Now, there were some signings and some cuts. We cut Obinna easy. Easy like Sunday morning, as they say. Obinna Easy, the former IPP, International Pathway player or program player, the offensive lineman. Cut. See you later. Goodbye, Obinna. And we signed Samuel Jackson. Not that Samuel Jackson, but another offensive tackle. So apparently we like this Samuel Jackson better than Easy. So see you later, Easy. It's been Reezy. And Samuel Jackson onto the squad. Roster has been updated on my in my spreadsheet, of course. Now, the other thing, Aaron Glenn had his first press conference, for the season, and I wanted to discuss some of the differences between Aaron Glenn and Robert Saleh that I noticed. One of the things, they talked. One of the things that stood out in the first press conference, he was up at 3. He was so excited for training camp to begin. His first training camp as head coach. He was up at 3:30 in the morning, couldn't sleep, getting going, and I think that's great. And the other, because you kind of do need to have a head coach who's all about football. I remember the Hard Knocks with the Dolphins. They showed Mike McDaniel going to his office at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he has this big, gigantic screen, and he's looking at plays and he's writing things down. And I thought to myself, would Robert Saleh do this? I don't think so. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Robert Saleh has seven children, many of them small. He's got daddy duties. Glenn's kids are all grown up. So that's a big difference. And Robert Saleh also has very serious hobbies that he pursues. He's very serious about golf. He's very serious about working out. You got to have the big muscles, And he's very serious about chess, for 3 things right off the bat that he has that take up his mind and his time. I think Aaron Glenn is all about football and is only thinking about football and his family, of course. But other than that, it's just all football all the time for Aaron Glenn, I believe. From what I can tell, from everything we've heard, everything that's been reported on, and everything he has said. And that's the sort of person that we kind of need here. We can't afford to have just an okay coach. Robert Saleh is an okay coach. Nothing wrong with him, other than the way he tried to handle the media, but which I identified early, if you remember. And that ultimately got him, in hot water. So but Glenn, on the other hand, I think all he thinks about is football. For better or worse, I think that's the way it is. And so I think that's a good thing for the New York Jets. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, so you're going to start seeing some statistics come out from the training camp practices that the dumb media is allowed to go to. And so I wanted to talk about, let's see if I want to bring this up right here. Yeah, so Justin Fields, of course, is not a rookie. We all kind of know already what he needs to work on, what he needs to improve on. Um, it's not like he's Zach Wilson or some other rookie where we don't exactly know what he is yet. We know what he can do. He's elite at running the ball. He's great in an RPO type offense, and he needs to improve somewhat on his passing. Although I will note he did have a better completion percentage than Josh Allen last year, just as a not that he's better than Josh Allen, but just for those who think he can't hit the side of a barn, that may be a little hyperbolic, and maybe you remember him from the Chicago days last year. Much better. Only 6 games, though, I understand. But so here's an article, and this is one of those articles I'm using it as an example, and I wouldn't give this person very much airtime, so to speak, but it's a perfect example of what to avoid in Jets analysis. Somebody asked me in the live stream, who are the people we should listen to and who are the people we should forget and throw in the garbage can? And this Nick Fatso Faria is one of those guys that we need to take his opinions and throw them right in the garbage can because, first of all, Nick Faria, and everybody needs to know this, is an Eagles fan. So he does not like the Jets. He doesn't give a shit about the Jets. He has, he doesn't even he has no, not that I want the journalists to be fans of the team. They really can't be, but at least have a desire for them to be good so that your job is fun, that sort of thing. But this guy's an Eagles fan, so he hates the Jets. The Eagles, obviously Philadelphia and New York are, loggerheads usually. And so Eagles fan, and of course with Justin Fields here, which is what he's talking about, he doesn't like Justin Fields. Why? Because he was drafted by the Bears, and the Bears, if Justin Fields was good and a dominant player, would have been an obstacle for the Eagles, to get by. Turns out it didn't work out that way. But you can imagine, he was probably pretty anti-Fields just because he wanted Jalen Hurts and the Eagles to do well. And Fields, here comes Fields, a similar type of dude to Hurts in terms of play style. And so he doesn't like Justin Fields, and he doesn't like the Jets, and he doesn't know what he's talking about either. So now he does have a press pass, and this guy has also worked for Athlon Sports and a whole bunch of publications. Now he's working for Jets X Factor. Okay. I guess he's gotten fired everywhere because he doesn't add value. Now he's down working for Jet X, probably 5 cents a word or something. So here he has his takeaways. Justin Fields, uneven day. So one of the things I want to talk about is why this is terrible reporting, because this is horrible journalism where it's accurate what he says. He's telling you what happened. Yeah. But they leave out important context. So he looked indecisive sometimes. Several throws were off target, but he didn't throw any picks, for example. And he says, now, there are 2 trains of thought when it comes to a practice like the one Fields had. First is he's a new quarterback with a new offense and new teammates, right? It's going to take some time. In that regard, there shouldn't be anyone panicking over Fields' performance. The other side of that coin is far more concerning, though. And see, like when they use ridiculous hyperbolic language, that tells you where they lean. Fields has been an NFL quarterback for 4 seasons already. Right. And 3 of them were with the Bears, who were terrible. And 1 was with the Steelers, and we've already shown you he was getting better and better and better, and then they took him out. Now he's learning a new offense, and he had some incompletions. He's using the incompletions as an analysis that he's making here. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is, shithead, that people like Brock Purdy today, he doesn't tell you, threw 2 interceptions. Drake May had an interception drop. Bryce Young threw an interception today. All these quarterbacks who have been on their teams, one team only, their entire career. Let's use Brock Purdy as the example. Why did he throw 2 interceptions today? Then he's been an NFL quarterback for 3 or 4 years already with the same exact team, with the same exact play caller, running the same exact offense with most of the receivers that he already knows, Brock Purdy, who just got paid a lot of money. And on the first day of camp, he's throwing 2 interceptions. Justin Fields had some incompletions. That's the concept that Fat Boy Faria will never tell you. He'll never give you that. context. And when you leave that type of context out, what you're doing is you are feeding the Jet fan worry machine, which everybody knows is how you make money online. You make Jet fans worry. That's why Frankie doesn't make any money on this fucking channel, because I try not to do that too much unless it's absolutely necessary. But he knows, hey, if I make the Jet fan worry, and of course he takes gleeful pride in this. He's writing about hospital balls and all this hyperbolic language because of incompletions, not even interceptions. And yet you have somebody like a Brock Purdy on the first day of camp throw one right to a linebacker who takes it back for a pick six. You have Jackson Dart, first throw at camp, of training camp, intercepted, pick six. Now he's a rookie, all right, I get it, but they're not giving you. This guy will never give you the right context. This is the same shitbird that also will write an article about Justin Fields and say, in his career, he has the worst fourth quarter completion percentage of all the qualified cornerbacks of the same period. Really? That's the statistic you're pulling out of your fat ass? What? Who talks about fourth quarter completion percentage other than this shitbird? Annoying. Young receiver shine, but then he does say some good things. So, he's anti-Justin Fields and he's anti-Jets. So take him out. But, he says some nice things about Arian Smith and Jamaal Pritchett. They stood out. So Arian Smith, this is good news. This is a guy much maligned. He's very fast. And if he's running good routes and catching the ball, that's great for our offense. And even Pritchett caught a diving ball and continues to get open at a high clip. So Pritchett might be a surprise 53-man roster maker. So that's good news. Remains a player continuing to prove his worth. Smith, meanwhile, continues to show the kind of athleticism, speed, route running ability that made him Georgia's leading receiver. Better news, he didn't drop any. Good chance that if Smith can find consistency, he may end up finding a key role on the offense. Defense is flying around. Blah, blah, blah. Wilson is still amazing. We all know. Struggles, Malachi, a little struggly. But the main point here is you need to know who to follow and who not to follow. Nick the Fat Boy Faria is not a guy to follow. Because the other thing is, if you really want to analyze Justin Fields' play, then you really need to know what the route they're running, what they're being coached. Was he looking high to low or low to high? No one ever talks about that. Where are his eyes supposed to be? Are they running a play that they're just going to throw out of the playbook anyway? And like, oh, you know what? This play doesn't work. Get it out of the playbook. And then so it doesn't really matter. But that's the context they'll never, ever tell you about because they don't know it, because they're stupid. Nick Faria is a moron, basically. So that's it. So Faria, no. Robbie Sabo, yes. Listen to Robbie. Now, you always have to put your discernment hat on. You never just take anybody's opinion and say, yeah, that's good to go. Very few things. A couple of things. I mean, when they're a guru, an absolute guru, like I'll give you an example. That's probably another Frankie classic right there. The guru theory. When someone's an absolute guru like Duke Manyweather and Brandon Thorne on offensive line, I'll pretty much take their opinion, as my, I won't put too much discernment on it. Whatever it is probably. Because those guys are gurus about offensive line play. They're not going to be wrong too often, right? But other than that, other than the gurus, really, you take everybody's opinion and put it through the logic filter. But one of the better beat reporters is Robbie Sabo from the Jets X Factor. And then the other people to take seriously are Connor Hughes and Zach Rosenblatt, and to a degree, Dick Chimney, because they work for big publications. And the thing to keep in mind, does this look different than that? So, for example, they're talking about Will McDonald at 250 when he played at 236 last year. That's different, okay? And they're saying his speed is the same. That's the sort of thing that you can say, okay, take that to the bank. So he's bigger now, playing with the same speed. And then if we watch and we see he has more power, so we need to watch Will McDonald and his bull rush. If he gets a bull rush, that kid, watch out. Watch the fuck out, because that kid has unlimited potential if he can get big and strong. And big and strong are two different things. Just look at Michael Clemens. um, then we really might have something, and then you have a guy fulfilling his potential as a number one pick. Oh boy, that would be fantastic. But he is bigger, and he looks the same speed. So when those kind of comparisons, you can take those to the bank. Now, what else can we take to the bank? How about little Mike Westhoff? What? Mike Westhoff? What are you talking about, Frankie? Well, we got a tweet right here from Sleeper Jets, former Jets special teams coach Mike Westhoff. Yes, sir. Will be visiting the Jets in the coming days, per Dick Chimney. Current Jet special teams coach Chris Banjo worked under Westhoff in Denver. And of course, Westy was one of our bestie coaches ever, really, if you think about it. Worked under Rex Ryan, was known as one of the best special teams coaches out there. And he was on the Green Bean Show, if you remember that. And when I was on, and I got to ask him a question. So a special place in my heart for old Coach Westhoff. I asked him about the time that a special teams coach has to coach up, because special teams is comprised of offense and defense. A lot of special teams coaches will complain that they don't have enough time with their guys because they're trying to learn offense and defense, and there's not enough time for special teams. And I asked him, how do you deal with that? And he gave a very interesting answer. So that's good news. We're getting Mike Westhoff in as a visitor. Maybe he'll help out old Chris Banjo. So you got to love that. All right, next on the old agenda, helmet cams. Yeah, I noticed that the Jets and the Dolphins do have helmet cams. So Tua has one and Justin has one. But the Bills and Patriots do not. So it's just something to keep an eye on. Of course, hard to argue with Josh Allen. He's MVP of the league. So maybe he doesn't need a helmet cam, Frankie. But, excuse me, what about Drake May? Here's a young fella. And Mike Vrabel decided, nope, no helmet cam needed for old Drake May. So we'll see if that pays any dividends. If we see a big increase in output and production and quality in Justin Fields, maybe that's one of the things that helped him do that. And maybe if Drake May goes down, maybe you could say, hey, Vrabel, maybe add a little helmet cam to the mix. Might help out old Drake May. But let's not get into Drake May at this point. Doobie-doobie-doo. And that about wraps it up. I mean, one of the things about let's keep an eye on camp. I wrote about blitzing and man coverage. The media has already picked out a narrative about blitzing and man coverage. So you're going to hear about that nonstop from the idiots in the media, even the ones I named as ones you should pay attention to, like Chimney and Rosenblock and Country Club, Connor Hughes. You got to pay attention to them. You got to pay attention to somebody. And they're at least mostly fair, although Rosenblatt it leans over to the bad reporter side sometimes. They already have a narrative about the Jets blitzing and more, and being in man coverage more, as if man coverage was just all the same. Like it was just man and zone. That's all there was on defense. It's a lot more complicated than that. I have a video about the Jets defense that goes into a little bit more detail than just that. There's cover 0, there's cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 5, cover 6. So it's a lot different than just man versus zone. There's also pattern matching and other kinds of fun stuff. But the narrative of the media, so just keep this in mind. The narrative of the media is going to be the increased blitzing and the man coverage, increased man coverage, and they're going to talk to Sauce nonstop about following receivers and all kinds of things. So that's just something to watch for as we move forward in this training camp. I'm sure there's going to be tons and tons of more news. So that wraps up for this week's news session. But I'm sure as the train is getting rolling for the NFL season, it's going to be a nonstop news cycle, one thing after another. But that'll do it for this episode of FSPN Jets News Week or something. I don't know, whatever we want to call. What should we call this segment? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.